Just one last signature to confirm, Jason. A scientist named Rebecca smiles at me and tugs on her long, curly black hair. She hands me a clipboard with a legal form clamped onto it. I barely glance at the paper before writing my name down. My body feels a little numb. It's hard to believe I'm finally committing. You'll be awake in less than the snap of a finger. She smiles cheerfully, then steps back and presses a button on the side of my cryopod. A hatch closes in front of me, and a large glass window slides down, barring me from the outside world. It's my last chance to quit, back out, and leave, but I won't. I'm not going anywhere. I stare out the transparent plexiglass around me as the pod closes. 9 other pods are here. Their lids clamp down simultaneously. Each of their occupants' faces has a range of emotions, from nervousness to fear to even a bit of curiosity. The general atmosphere is intense, as this is only the 3rd clinical trial the doctors have performed. Compared to the others, my mind works a little differently. A calmness overtakes me, making me feel as if I'm about to land softly in a field of butterflies. My eyes lazily take in the scene around me. When I next wake up, it will be 1,000 years in the future. Humanity won't look anything like they do now. They'll probably all transform themselves into sci-fi robots, or they'll live in a massive virtual reality simulation, spinning around the sun in a Dyson sphere. Gas hisses into the small enclosed space around me. First, I'll be put to sleep, then I'll be frozen, and later the auto warm-up routine will run, waking me up. This machine is supposed to have enough power attached to its battery that it won't run out before the designated time, and it will still wake me up if the battery runs low early. If it fails, I don't even care. Maybe I'll die, frozen like an icicle. My eyes suddenly need to shut. I'm so sleepy it's time to have no regrets. An instant passes. Oh shit, I'm awake. My thoughts scream in my mind like a drunken man in a bar. I jerk forward and bash my face on the plexiglass. The glass is fogged up. Didn't the gas knock me out? I was deathly calm a second ago, but now I'm a bucket of nerves. My hands are shaking, and my body is stiff. What just happened? Did I even go to sleep? Rebecca wasn't joking. That was insanely fast. I don't remember dreaming, or maybe I'm still asleep. I pinch my thigh, only to realize my grip is almost non-existent. I'm weaker than a wet piece of paper, and my sense of touch is barely present since most of my body is numb. Another hissing sound. Is that more sleeping gas? No, wait. The hatch is opening. I can't see anything. The glass is still fogged up, and there's no room for my hands to move so I can wipe the fog away. Might as well wait. The hatch starts moving slowly. Very slowly. It must be crawling at a fraction of an inch per minute. Why is it so sluggish? By the time it's moved several inches, I'm ready to kill myself out of boredom. I can only see past the cracks of the hatch as it lifts up, but there's no mistake. Darkness shrouds the room. The only visible light source emanates from atop my cryopod. A shiver goes down my spine as the glass slowly inches away from my face. I can't see more than a foot forward, not even to the floor. The light is dim, and it seems to be getting fainter every second. Is the battery failing? Not good. It had better have enough juice to release me. The generator should easily last 1,000 years. Luckily, it does. After the door stops moving after reaching the top, the light brightens dramatically. It must have dimmed since they share the same power source. The problem is what I see next. My skin crawls at the emptiness surrounding me. There are no other pods here. The shiny metallic floor that I remember, the towering roof, all of it is gone. I'm not in the laboratory anymore. Hell, maybe I am, and 1,000 years has done a number on the place. I cautiously stagger forward, using the doorframe to prop my body up. I reach my bare foot out, and as it touches the floor, I feel a curious sensation. My heel and toes are still somewhat numb, but the flat of my feet register that the ground is warm, and it's smooth. The land is earthen, but it isn't a layer of dirt covering the floor of the cryotech facility. I take in the room around me. Everything, including the walls, floor, and ceiling, are made of that same smooth dirt. The walls are much closer than I remember. The whole space is maybe 20 feet wide and deep, and about 14 feet tall. I have no memory of this place. Someone must have moved my pod, but to what end? My eyes roam around the bare room until I spot a giant stone door to the right. I need to get out of this room. The cryo-preserved storage cases the scientists left me with aren't here, and I'm weak with hunger. God, what if I'm not even in the future? What if I've woken up 10 days later and this is all some elaborate prank? The researchers could have set up all kinds of crazy experiments, and I wouldn't know. I should have read the small print. The thought this is all a prank is comforting but unlikely, given what I know about cryotech. There must have been an accident. I stumble over to the door. It's massive, standing nearly the full height of the wall. It appears to be a double door, with the center being what I have to push on to open it. I shove it with all my might and hear a hissing sound as it opens. I'm reminded of when Indiana Jones opened a sarcophagus and oxygen sucked inside. Suddenly, strength returns to my body, and I realize I was taking shallow breaths until just now. The room was nearly devoid of fresh air. I'm lucky I survived. With a new surge of energy, I heave the door open. I don't know what I expected. The door opens and I see nothing. There's a room somewhere in the darkness, but my eyes are useless at piercing the veil of shadow. Maybe if I could cast magic missile, that would change. Why can't humanity of the year 3000 pay the goddamn electric bill? A humming noise fills the air around me. My bones rattle under my skin, though the sensation is faint and indistinct. It's everywhere, yet nowhere. The air itself seems to quiver in fear. Oh damn, maybe being frozen for 1,000 years made me evolve ESP or something. That would be awesome, but unlikely. My hopes dash against the rocks. Let's be realistic about this, Jason, and consider what we know. The floor is comfortably warm, like sitting a few feet away from a fire, while also covered in smooth dirt. The air itself is trembling in fear. Everyone I've ever known and loved is probably dead. I'm at least somewhat sure that I'm not in the original cryotech lab where I started out, and I may have evolved a spider sense. Yeah, this isn't helping. The future makes no sense at all. I wander back over to the pod. What once required a small feat of endurance is now just a few light steps away. It's amazing how my life can change so quickly. Examining the pod, I find a small hatch on its rear. When I pop it out, a little compartment appears with some items inside. There's a 10-foot nylon rope, a badly rusted handgun of some sort, a knife that's corroded and flaking apart, and what I assume is a flashlight. Also a few cans of food? They aren't labeled, and while food preservation might be a precise science, I'm terrified of what the contents will reveal. I'll skip the chow for right now. I pull the stuff out of the compartment and find a small knapsack made from nylon at the bottom, with straps for wearing it like a backpack. It's stiff as hell, but after yanking and beating it around a bit, I'm able to give it new life. Well, that's handy. At least I have some tools. I don't think a rusted, dull knife will be much use. The flashlight might not work. The gun is toast, and God only knows what Satan himself put in the cans of food, but at least I have supplies even if they're meager. I stick everything into the knapsack and click the flashlight. Nothing happens. Great, that's just wonderful. I figured this was a waste of time. But wait, there's a crank on the top? Oh, that's right. This looks like one of those flashlights from the as seen on TV ads, where I can spin the lever and power it. But surely it won't work, right? After grinding the gears around inside the device, the light flickers on. Hallelujah, I'm saved! I crank it with all my strength and get a dim light that shines forward 10 or so feet. The illumination is weak at best, but at least I won't be falling into any bottomless chasms or spike pits now that I have a light source. Walking towards the still open door, I crank the flashlight and light up the next room. In the middle of the chamber, there's a goddamn terrifying statue there. My knees shake and teeth chatter as I walk toward it. If I had to describe the thing, I'd call it a well. A gargoyle, I suppose, though unlike any I've seen in my life. It looks fucking demonic. It's a two-headed monster. The right head has a long beak sticking out with hundreds of tiny teeth lining the inside. The left one looks more humanoid, with nasty hair hanging down and a third eye on its forehead. On the outside of each one's skull, a horn sticks up into the air, with an overlapping bony pattern visible. 4 arms, with 5 crocodilian talons at the ends, protrude from the sides of its body. The thing's chest has several eyes all over, each of them facing different directions. Each one is small and beady, and they appear to follow me as I move around the room. When I shine my flashlight on the statue, the eyes flicker and glow red, startling me, so I quickly aim the light away. The marble construct might be twice my size, but I'm not ballsy enough to pull out a tape measure and check. What's up with this terrifying sculpture? Why is it facing my door, like a warning or a threat to me when I exit? I swear, if this is some elaborate ruse to screw with me, I'm going to murder whoever did it. I'd also rather it be a prank at this point because the unease racking my heart is making my life expectancy drop several years. Carefully, I shimmy my way past the monstrous effigy. On the opposite side of the room is yet another door. A thought occurs to me as I touch it to push it open. How am I breathing oxygen? Pulling away, I glance upward, above the statue. A small square hole, barely big enough for a cat to fit through, catches my eye. I shine my flashlight up at it and sigh, realizing there's no point trying to climb up inside of it. Not only wouldn't I fit, but I'd also have to climb on top of the statue to reach, and no way is that happening. No, sir. I get the creeps knowing the thing is in the same room as me. Turning my attention back to the door, I start shoving it with all my might, but I'm surprised when the massive slab of stone easily flings open as if it were gliding on ice. I trip and fall forward, slamming on the ground and dropping my flashlight. In a panic, I grab my only source of light and shine it back at the statue, but the thing is in the same place as it was before. Damn my irrational paranoia. Cautiously, I pull myself to my feet and aim the light into the new room. Well, it isn't actually a room, it's a hallway. The walls expand outward, widening dramatically to almost 3 times the width of the chamber I'm in now. And the ceiling is so high that the flashlight's beam can't reach it. Slowing my breath to abnormal levels, I mutter to nobody in particular. No need to be afraid. There's nothing here but your nerves, Jason. And slowly, I tiptoe out into the corridor, glancing around nervously as I patter forward. Darkness stretches out all around me. I can just barely see the walls on each side, and cranking the light doesn't give it much more juice. Hello? My words are but a whisper, and the ether sucks them from my lips, absorbing them into the faint humming of the background noise that permeates this place. No response greets me as I walk further into the darkness. All at once, I feel a faint breeze on my back, and my body stiffens. Before I can spin around, a thunderous boom from behind nearly makes me piss myself in terror. The door from the cryopod room, it just closed. Oh my god, it's no big deal. The door must have had a spring on it or something. My mind screams irrationally at me as I slowly turn around and shine my flashlight at the source of the noise. What I see next chills me to my very core. The statue. It's gone. For a moment, I lose the ability to control my body. My legs give out, and I fall to the floor as I stare at the spot where that goddamn statue was standing only a few seconds before. I don't feel like a human right now. My eyes leap from one crevice of the room to another, frantically scanning for threats. My mind invents 1,000 possibilities for where the statue went, even thinking of crazy shit, like maybe it's just invisible to the human eye suddenly. Ha ha ha! No matter where I look, one thing is evident. The room that once held the statue is now empty. It's hard to calm my mind down and reason. My hands shake as I carefully pull myself off the ground. I take a few steps back as one very obvious thought crosses my mind. What if that wasn't a statue after all? Everything about this creepy, dark dungeon makes my skin crawl. If someone is trying to pull a practical joke on me, they've won. I give up. Jesus Christ. What if the statue monster is sitting behind the door, waiting for me to turn my back so it can pounce on me and devour my insides? I'm thinking of opening the door to my cryopod's chamber for some dumb reason, but that would be suicidal. Haha, why would anyone do that? Quickly and stealthily, I rush over to the second door and push it shut as quietly as possible, then break into a dead run in the opposite direction, making sure to only run on my tiptoes. You bet your sweet ass I don't want that thing to hear me. Please tell me the statue demon isn't hungry. Please. Even as I run for minutes, putting distance between myself and the room behind me, my breath starts to come in ragged gasps, and I have to slow to a stop, doubling over and gasping as sweat pours off my forehead. I was never a particularly athletic young man in school, and I sat around playing video games and chess to pass the time before my appointment with cryotech came up. I'm surprised I made it this far. To make matters worse, I have no food or water. If the abomination doesn't eat me, I'll die of hunger and dehydration. I need to catch a break. As I plop down on the ground, finally deciding to catch my breath, my heart slams against my chest. I hear something from very far behind me in the direction I fled. Footsteps. Distinct, loud, and very, very slow. Thud. 1, 2, 3, thud. 1, 2, 3, thud. Oh God, it's coming. My eyes nearly pop out of my skull, and my knees rattle in terror as I stare into the darkness behind me. The monster is in the distance, and it's coming this way. I'm going to die. I can hear the bells tolling in the back of my mind. This is no time to rest, you lazy sack of shit. Get your ass up and move. My conscience and inner ego scream at me. My limbs moan in pain, but I somehow manage to leap to my feet thanks to a surge of adrenaline. I don't have the strength to run, but if that thing is coming as slowly as it sounds like it is, a power walk will hopefully keep me ahead of it. Ahead of it? The realization that a monster is coming to eat me makes me quicken my pace. What is going on? What kind of purgatory am I in? Did I die? Am I in hell? Yeah, Satan. You're hilarious, you goddamn piece of garbage. Just throw everything you've got at me all at once. I do my best to jog and stay ahead of the plodding footsteps behind me, but I pause for a moment and listen intently. Something is off about their tempo. Thud 1, 2, thud 1, 2, thud. The monster is quickening its pace. It's speeding up, and I'm still thoroughly exhausted. At this rate, I'm going to die from my heart imploding before the damn thing can catch me. What if the statue monster is toying with me? Maybe it's like a bird teaching its babies to feed. Hold on, babies. Ha ha, that's no! What about the hole in the ceiling? That can't be nope, I must purge the thought. Just as I turn around and start jogging, a new sight greets my eyes. The opposite wall. I've finally reached it. A colossal double door looms before me, stretching all the way up to the ceiling 100 feet above. I can't see the top of it with my flashlight, but one thing is for sure. It's much too big for me to open. I'm trapped. Wait! On both sides of it, to the left and right, much smaller doors sit. Each one is about the same size as the stone slabs from before. The footsteps that once sounded distant are growing steadily closer. Not much longer, and that fucking dinosaur reject is going to emerge from the darkness and tear me to ribbons. Which way do I go? My gut tells me left is right, so without any reason whatsoever, I charge into the left one, shoving with all my might until it groans open. Quickly, I slam the door behind me and lean against it, breathing like my lungs are on fire. Before me is a narrow hallway that curves slightly to the side. Wherever this leads, I have to follow it. I'm not going back out there. The adrenaline rush as my body trembles in terror eventually winds down once the footsteps grow silent behind me. Slowing to a tentative walk, I stare ahead into the corridor, always shining my flashlight forward, aside from when I check behind myself for jump scares. The first thing I begin to realize is that I'm very subtly descending downward. Indeed, conventional logic would imply that to escape this place, I must head upward, to the outside sky, but I don't have much choice in the matter. In fact, not only is the floor gently sloping down, but it's also curving to the left, though I wasn't sure at first as the change was somewhat gradual. After I gather my bearings, I continue walking down the sloping corridor, wondering all the while if I will ever see anything besides these dark earthen walls. I pause eventually, as I notice that the humming sound has grown more noticeable, but I still don't hear the monster following me. My flashlight sputters slightly, and I sigh as I reach for the crank. Just as it goes out, I pause, noticing a faint light up ahead. Squinting, I take a few steps forward and confirm that yes, in fact, there is a light somewhere at the end of this damned corridor. This realization fills me with hope, as well as dread. One does not merely illuminate the darkness in a place like this without disturbing some ancient horror. Despite the lack of light around me, I press on, creeping forward slowly. My flashlight would probably reveal my presence if there's something up ahead. I'd prefer not to expose myself to a different monster, especially after I narrowly escaped the first. The light brightens. I carefully tiptoe down the hallway, and soon it's intense enough that I can easily see all around myself. My body is coated in fluid from the cryo chamber, but it's begun to dry and harden into millions of sticky white flakes. I'll be lucky if I ever feel clean again. The room where the light is pouring from is just through the doorway up ahead. I lean around the corner and peek with one eye, and what I see takes my breath away. 3 colossal statues, standing at least 100 feet tall, tower over everything else in the room. I almost cry when I realize they aren't representations of monsters, but of human men. Each statue is against a different wall, and all 3 of them are unique, holding different poses. The first is a man with a long beard. A crown rests atop his head, and while the crown may be the same drab gray as the person it rests upon, bumps and dots line it, indicating it was a crown with many jewels studded inside. The man wears many layers of robes, each piled atop the other, and a long staff with a jewel is in his grasp, held proudly, as if he were going to cast a spell with it. To describe him, I would say he was a wise leader, someone who was fair and just. No evil escaped his gaze, but no righteousness went unrewarded either. The next statue is of a man holding a mighty sword, both hands grasping its handle, the sword pointed out from his body, as if at any moment he could leap into action and cut his foes down. His expression is grim. He has seen many battles in his lifetime, and I can tell from the way the statue was carved that he was a feared warrior among his people. Some kings order their men from the rear flanks, while others lead the charge. The final person is different. His arms hang limply at his sides, and his head is bowed, eyes closed. Tears, or perhaps drops of blood, roll down his cheeks. This man gave everything he had and fought to the end, but it wasn't enough. A closer glance reveals a necklace hanging from one of his hands, barely wrapped around one of his fingers. He died before his time was right, and now his likeness is frozen forever in memory of his final thoughts. I wish I had done more. The statues aren't the only thing in the room. Gold coins are piled in the center of the room, mounds and heaps as far as I can see. If I weren't in a dark, festering hell, I might be tempted to call it the wealth of El Dorado. Amidst the gold, I spot weapons, armor, and even jewels. But despite the incredible sights to behold, all of it pales in comparison to the final object that catches my gaze. The incredibly brilliant source of light that illuminates the entire room. An orb rests atop a small, nondescript altar. A light, not unlike that of the sun, shines forth from it, reflecting off the gold and creating a dazzling display to draw my eyes to it. The light isn't a static thing, like a light bulb, but alive, coursing with energy. The humming that I've been feeling, without a doubt, emanates from it. Slowly, I step toward it, my eyes darting around, looking for enemies and threats. None appear. I stare at the orb silently for a moment, and a sudden chill rushes down my back. Behind me, just around the bend I came from, a scratching sound like a foot scuffing pavement makes my breath catch in my throat. Something did follow me. My bones click together violently as I hear the thing creeping around the bend behind me. "You're dead! It's going to eat you!" My mind screams in alarm. Tears pour down my face, but I dare not wipe them away. I don't have time. Suddenly, my shaking stops. An idea forms in my mind. Instinct takes over. That orb. I need it. I must have it. It has to be significant. I go from a shaking mess about to be devoured to an animal fleeing to the only possible refuge, the one thing in this room that I know must mean something. As I rush toward the glowing orb of spirituality, a sudden scrambling noise behind me makes my skin crawl as the thing races around the corner after me. The last thing I hear before I grab the orb is a terrifying, unearthly scream, like that of a woman being torn apart by an abomination. Serenity. Peace. My hand rests on the orb, and the panic in my body melts away. "There's nothing to be afraid of now," someone unknown says to me. Perhaps it's my mind playing tricks. Calmly, I look back over my shoulder. The statue monster isn't there, but something else is. A shadow. I don't mean the sort of shadow made when something blocks the light, but a creature comprised entirely of blackness. I can barely even see it thanks to the brilliance of the orb and how it illuminates every corner of the room all at once. But it's there. For a moment, it seems that the shadow isn't moving, but after a few seconds of staring, I realize it is. Time has slowed to a crawl. It's as if I'm in the Matrix, and touching the orb has transformed me into an awakened Neo. I cock my head and stare at the creature for a moment, realizing that I'm not panicking, and yet I should be. My mind warns me that the monster is dangerous, but my body hasn't a care in the world. A sensation of power flows through my body, making me feel as if I could crush a rock with my mind. How strange. Perhaps it isn't that time has slowed down, but that I have sped up. I'm no longer exhausted, and in fact, I could run a triathlon this very instant. Why am I so full of energy? Before, my breath was ragged and my legs scarcely even worked, but now my body is as ready for action as if I had napped for a year straight. After gazing at the shadow for a moment, my eye catches the glint of something behind it. This may sound strange, but an object is glowing in the distance, and it isn't in my room. Instead, I will my eyes to pierce through the walls, spotting a sword elsewhere in this accursed maze. In another direction, a crown glows, as if it's a beacon designed to draw my attention. I quickly look around, spotting even more glowing objects. A set of chest armor, a belt, a pair of boots, all of them drawing my eyes like a moth to a flame. When I lower my eyes to look below me, my happiness fades. Something roils in the deep, frightening and disturbing, and the longer I gaze at it, the more my newfound calmness transforms into abject horror. A glowing sea of green, rapidly flowing from east to west. But inside the water is no. I can't believe it. This is too much. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go back to the past. Humans fill the river, or rather, their souls do. Bubbling up from the deep, millions, perhaps billions of faces rise and fall, screaming in pain and agony. They rise out of the hellish river, their skin begins to grow back, but they fall back in, only for that cycle to continuously repeat over and over again. Their eternal suffering won't end, for they are cursed to wallow in misery until the end of time. I'm not in the future. I think I died and went to hell. Turning back to the shadow, I narrow my eyes. Instinctively, I raise my palm up and spread my fingers out in a stop gesture. The shadow, unable to halt its snail-worthy momentum, continues to leap at me, but a single word escapes my lips. Light. A ray of energy shoots out of my hand, enveloping the shadow's entire side of the room in a luminous warmth, almost as bright as gazing at the sun during the heat of the midday. The shadow opens its mouth, but no sound comes out as it melts away, devoured by the power of a single word. A moment later, all is still. Why did I do that? How and why did I know that I could shoot magical light rays out of my hand? Am I in some form of virtual reality? Of course not. That would be ludicrous. Besides, the floor beneath me still feels quite warm, and my sense of touch can't easily be fooled like my eyes and ears can. But then, if I were in the future, especially 1,000 years or so, perhaps VR might have evolved? Who knows what futuristic humans might come up with? A primitive human like me probably couldn't imagine the reality of the future. Time returns to normal, and the orb dulls somewhat, no longer acting like a miniature sun in the palm of my hands. While it doesn't illuminate as much of the room, my eyes hurt much less, so it's an improvement compared to before. In any case, I'm not going to figure out where I am or understand my predicament by randomly guessing. This orb has given me the ability to shoot holy rays of light, so it's a suitable weapon. I'm useless with a sword, and the armor laying around is way too big for me, so I doubt I'll need anything else. I'd better leave. Sloshing my way through the piles of gold, I almost trip a few times but manage to keep myself together. I considered taking some of the gold with me, but I doubt it'll be any use. It'll slow me down. I can come back later if I find a use for it. After wading through the gold, I evaluate the 3 statues. To the right of each one, on all 3 walls opposite the door I entered from, passages led to various other hallways. I can go right, left, or forward, and there are no indicators which way is the correct path to take. Hell, with my luck, they're all the wrong path. I don't know where the passages lead, but one thing is for sure. I do not want to head down. It may be miles and miles below, but that river of souls is the last place I want to be. When I was fleeing the statue monster, I used the left door, and it paid off for me. Since the left passage seems to head back up, in the opposite direction as the river of souls, I trudge past the piles of coin and step inside the hallway, and am pleasantly surprised to see rocks embedded in the walls, every 10 feet or so that glow. While they don't illuminate much, they don't need to either. That's what my new orb is for, after all. With a pep in my step, I force the thoughts of the statue monster to the back of my mind and head down the passage, praying to whatever gods may still exist to watch over me. As the puny human leaves the room, the 3 great kings turn their heads to look at one another. The knowledge seeker. Is that boy a candidate? The one who weeps? Difficult to say. I saw no rejection. Anything is possible. The greatest sinner. He is part of the great cycle. In the direst times of need, a champion will rise. The time is right. The one who weeps. It doesn't matter. The boy cannot redeem our failures. All hope is lost. The greatest sinner. As long as one draws breath, there is always hope. You have forgotten the ancient struggles. The knowledge seeker. You speak the truth, Arthur. As long as the boy has the power of the kings, he can right the wrongs we've wrought. The one who weeps. He will break just as we did, just as all heroes do. Man cannot overcome his weakness. The knowledge seeker. Ye of little faith. That is why you fail.